Another writing trap many students fall into is with words that are frequently confused. This especially happens when a student is diligently using a thesaurus. Remember not to use words from the thesaurus willy-nilly. Make sure you know exactly what they mean, both in terms of the context as well as the strict definitions. Also watch for words that sound the same but are spelled differently. And I know you should remember this from grade school. You know, there, bread, our. There are some words that people use but are actually not real words at all. For instance, irregardless is not a word. Use regardless. Already, one word with two L's, not a word. It should be either already, one word with one L, or already, two words with two L's. Do you remember a teacher saying a lot is not? A lot as one word is incorrect. It should be two words. Finally, the placement of the apostrophe with the word its is often done incorrectly. The possessive form of its has no apostrophe. The word its with the apostrophe between the T and the S is a contraction of it is. Now, if you find you have trouble with words and often misuse them, try keeping a list of the words that you confuse regularly. Let's look at a few more examples. People often use the words fewer and less incorrectly. One way to decide which of these words is appropriate is to figure out whether or not the items being described are countable. With tangible, countable items, the word fewer should be used, as in there were fewer girls than boys at the party. When describing a more abstract concept, use less. For example, he was less apprehensive about his interview once he had taken a few deep breaths. The next example is a very common problem. Here the problem arises because of the way the phrases sound when people are talking. For example, listen to this sentence. I should have gone with her to the store. Depending on how the words are slurred together or run together, it sounds like it's correct, but it's not. The sentence should be written, I should have gone with her to the store. The words that sound like should and of are really the contraction should have. So the phrases should have, could have, and would have are always incorrect. The word of is a preposition that often indicates the relationship of a whole to a part, as in, Grandma ate the last piece of pie. In order to make the incorrect phrases above correct, the word have should be substituted for of. Should have, could have, would have. Now in English we have a number of idiomatic phrases. An idiom is simply a manner of speaking, something that is just developed in language, but there's no real rule, which makes it hard. The phrases are just that way. The only way to remember them is by learning and memorizing them through use. Reading something aloud can sometimes help you catch these errors in idiomatic phrases. For example, regardless to should be regardless of, as in, regardless of your opinion, we are going out tonight. Instead of saying different than or different to, you should say different from. Okay, and there's a whole list of examples here. And let's focus on a couple. So aptitude toward or for. One has an aptitude for music, not an aptitude toward music. Or how about superior? Do you use than or to? Dark chocolate is superior to white chocolate. Must have known, we've already discussed this one. So it should be must have, not must of. Comply to or comply with. One complies with regulations, not complies to regulations. Do you use off or of? It's not get off of the couch, but get off the couch, and so on. Here we have some more examples. This first one, do you use toward without an S or towards with an S? The word usually acts as a preposition. In fact, there is no right or wrong answer here. Toward without an S is used more often in American English, while towards with an S is used more often in British English. I've also heard, however, that towards with an S refers to direction, while toward without an S refers to with respect to or on the verge of. For example, I walked towards the car versus we are walking toward a common goal. In other literature, the common usage is to use them interchangeably, but there's also some suggestion that toward without an S is better usage. No matter which one you choose to use, make sure you use it consistently the same way. What about the difference between farther and further? Farther shows a relationship to physical distance. If you can replace the word farther with more miles or more kilometers, then you have done it correctly. Our car drove farther than I thought it would on 1 tank of gas. Or, I wanted to run farther, but I became too exhausted. Our house is farther away from the restaurant than yours. With further, the U, further relates to a metaphorical distance or depth. It is a time, degree, or quantity. It's also another way of saying additional. For example, I ask that there be further discussion on the matter. Or, I need to look further into the logistics of moving farther from my office building. I hope that gas prices drop further for our road trip vacation. Finally, how do you know when to use the word amount or number? The general rule of thumb is that you use amount to refer to a quantity. Use number to refer to people or things that can be counted. For example, an enormous amount of energy was exerted by a small number of people. So in this table we have some more examples. The concert is expected to bring in a huge amount of money for the fundraiser. Only a small number of people have traveled to Antarctica, not a small amount of people. This cookie recipe calls for a tiny amount of salt. And finally, I cannot remember the number of times I have been snowboarding, not the amount of times. In this video, we have only touched on a few of the issues related to words, and we'll come back to this in another video. Here we have discussed the nature of words, how to write in plain language and to reduce fog, making your writing more interesting by using action verbs rather than be verbs, watching for words that are often confused, and some special cases of words that are often used incorrectly. Thank you for listening.